Bluey fans don't always see eye to eye on everything, and when it comes to our main character's love life, it's definitely one of the most debated topics on the internet. Are you really sure you know who the father of Bluey's pup is? The one that appeared in the final episode of the series?
Oh no.
The most popular fan theory revolves around the world's most famous border collie, McKenzie. These two have been friends since they were little, ever since McKenzie's family moved to Australia. One of the main arguments fans use to support this ship is the fact that Bluey once dreamed about the border collie. In the episode Fruit Bat, when Bluey is dreaming about the things she wishes for in life, there's a moment where she's with McKenzie. Now let's be clear, Bluey is dreaming because she wants to be a fruit bat and stay up late, and this is a detail that most fans completely overlook. Bluey is dreaming about things she likes, and the fact that McKenzie is part of that dream is proof that she really feels something strong for the border collie. But since she's still so young, she doesn't quite know how to express it yet. And yeah, that's totally normal and even expected for someone Bluey's age. But what's even more expected is that you grab your popcorn and a refreshing drink, because we're diving into all the theories about Bluey's future husband. It's time for another super special Cinewave. The other big fan theory involves a character who only appeared in a single episode, the Canadian Labrador, Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc showed up in the episode Camping when the Heeler family went on vacation at a forest park. But that storyline raises a big question. If Jean-Luc only appeared in one episode, how could he possibly be Bluey's future husband? Let's start answering that by checking out his official character description on the show's website. According to the show's creators, Jean-Luc is a French-speaking Canadian Labrador, and even though he and Bluey only spent a few days together, they remember each other forever. We also learned that Jean-Luc actually took the time to learn Bluey's language, English, so he could return to Australia and visit his friend in Brisbane. That's a really interesting detail about his character because it proves that Jean-Luc and Bluey shared a truly meaningful connection, something like a first love. In the episode where they meet, the language barrier isn't a problem at all, and that's just more proof that yes, Jean-Luc holds a very special place in Bluey's life. Another big argument for this theory is the fact that the two planted a tree together. And in this same episode, we actually get a glimpse of what Bluey might be like as a teenager. If you think about it, there's really no better place for Bluey's first kiss than under that tree where they reunite. And honestly, there's no better pup for that moment than Jean-Luc. It's pretty clear that for these two, it was love at first sight, something that lasted for years, just like the official website suggests. But wait a second, didn't Bluey dream about McKenzie? Yes, she did. When Bluey gets sad because Jean-Luc is gone and they can't play together anymore, Chili tells her that in life, some special people come into our lives, stay for a little while, and then move on. That in itself is a huge clue that maybe these two won't end up together forever. But at the same time, it also supports the idea that Bluey and Jean-Luc will at some point be a couple. Remember the episode Double Babysitter, when Frisky breaks up with Bosco and tries to explain to the pups that some relationships just aren't meant to last forever? That's exactly what we're talking about. It's almost certain that Bluey and Jean-Luc will date for a while, but their relationship won't lead to marriage. And the reason is pretty simple. Jean-Luc lives in Canada, while Bluey is in Australia. That kind of long-distance relationship is nearly impossible. The two countries are so far apart, which means that for their relationship to work, one of them would have to move. And that doesn't seem to be the case because, as we learned from the end of Season 3, Bluey doesn't live with her parents anymore. But she definitely still lives in Australia. When she visits her old house, Chili and Bandit don't seem all that surprised to see her there. It's like they still see her pretty often. Sure, this could mean that Jean-Luc moved from Canada to Bluey City, but there are plenty of clues that suggest that's not what happened, mainly because Jean-Luc was only a Season 1 character and has never been mentioned again. And you, would you like to visit Bluey City? Drop a comment with #trip so we can connect. Now, let's get a little more serious, okay? There's a real chance that neither of Bluey's two biggest potential love interests will be her future husband, and the reason is pretty obvious. Bluey is most likely going to marry another Blue Heeler. Let's take a look at how Bluey's world works. The Heeler family is the main group of characters. Bandit is the dad, Chili is the mom, and Bluey and Bingo are their pups. Within the Heeler family, we also have Uncle Stripe and Aunt Trixie, who are Muffin and Sox's parents. This whole family exists because of Grandpa Bob and Nana Chris, on Bandit's side. Meanwhile, on Chili's side, there's Grandpa Mort and Chili's mother, whose name we don't actually know, but we do know that she's a red Heeler. And that right there is the key detail most fans overlook. The entire Heeler family consists of dogs from the same breed. The only difference between a Blue Heeler and a Red Heeler is the color. Jean-Luc is a Labrador and McKenzie is a Border Collie, which technically makes Bluey dating either of them a little less likely. But does it really? If you take a close look at almost every family in Bluey, you'll see the same pattern. Take Chloe, for example. Her dad, Frank, is a Dalmatian, and so is her mom. Same with Coco's family. Every single one of them is a poodle. The Healer's neighbors, Lucky's dad and his wife Janelle, are both Labradors. In Bluey's world, it's super common for characters to marry dogs of the same breed. That's why there's a strong chance that our main character will end up with someone we haven't met yet, a boy who's also a Blue Healer. Even in Mackenzie's family, everyone is a Border Collie. And Rusty, who was almost the main character of the show, comes from a full family of red Kelpies. So it wouldn't be strange at all if Bluey eventually met a boy of her own breed and they fell in love. Plus, the idea that people marry their childhood friends isn't all that common. In fact, it's usually the opposite. Most adults meet their partners years after childhood. That's yet another clue that Bluey probably won't end up with Jean-Luc or McKenzie. We believe that when Bluey goes to college, she'll meet another Blue Healer. Most likely, he's the one who takes that family photo by the door showing Bluey's graduation in the final episode of Season 3. And the biggest clue? That picture appears right as adult Bluey is heading to visit her parents. But is this theory really that solid? Because within the Healer family, we do have an example of a mixed breed couple. Uncle Radley is actually a mix of both Blue and Red Healer, and on top of that, he's married to Frisky, who's a Cocker Spaniel. Snickers is a little dachshund, and his mom is one too, but she seems to be a long-haired dachshund, which makes her a little different. One of the biggest examples that the same breed rule doesn't always apply is Missy, who's one of Bingo's best friends. She's an Australian Terrier, but her mom is a German Spitz. Some fans think Missy might be adopted, but there's no proof of that. However, it does suggest that mixed breed families exist in Bluey's world. And another strong argument? A brand new family was formed at the end of Season 3 when Cornelius, a bulldog, moved in with the Terrier sibling's mom. So yes, there's definitely a chance that Bluey will marry someone of her own breed, but at the same time, she could still end up with McKenzie or Jean-Luc. No problem at all.
I love it!
Now let's talk about the wildest possibility of all. What if Bluey ends up marrying Rusty? Hold on, we can explain. Rusty was actually almost the main character of the entire show. Ludo Studios, the creators of Bluey, originally planned for a red Kelpie to be the protagonist before switching to Bluey. That means Rusty has been around since the very beginning, and there was always a big plan for his character. Rusty dreams of being a soldier, just like Grandpa Mort, which means the two would probably be really close if they were family. Rusty also loves sports, just like Bandit. He's the kind of pup who would fit right in with the Healer family, and since he was almost the show's main character, making Rusty Bluey's future husband would be an interesting way to bring him into the family. On top of that, in the pilot episode, we found out that Rusty was originally going to have a different name. He was supposed to be called McKenzie. And that's an interesting detail. Could it be that they always planned for Bluey's love interest to have the name McKenzie? We don't know for sure, but one thing we do know is that you should totally subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Even though it's fun to play around with all these theories, we already know exactly who Bluey's future husband is, and there's no way it's anyone other than McKenzie. Let's start with the biggest clue of all. Bluey's puppy, who appears at the end of Season 3, looks exactly like a real-life breed of dog. His pup is clearly a Border Healer, a mix of a Border Collie and a Blue Healer. And for those who don't know, this mix is super common in Australia. Not only that, but the puppy's ears look a lot like Mackenzie's, and their tails, also pretty similar. Another big clue, besides Bluey's dream, which we already talked about, is the episode Barky Boats. In that story, we see Captain and Mia, two dogs who grew up together and are clearly in love. And let's not forget that in the same episode, Winton straight up says that Mackenzie and Bluey are going to get married. That episode is basically a giant clue about their future. So if you're rooting for Jean-Luc and Bluey, sure, they might date as teenagers, but in the end, Bluey is going to marry McKenzie, the Border Collie, and have a puppy with him. That's a fact. And what's even more certain than that is that you can keep hanging out here on the channel, so we've picked out 2 more videos for you to enjoy. See you in the next one!